who's already here and milling around, I hope you're having a good time to celebrate this day for us. And so what we have planned, we have small cards which show you some programs that have been written up. We won't take too much of your time, that's certainly our hope. Although we do have till 5 o'clock this afternoon, so everybody is more than welcome to stay on as long as you like and meet with your friends, mill around, all of that. But prior to lunch, prior to official lunch, we have a short program where we'll just have a few of us come up and say a few things about our once upon a time little Rick, and now still more or less a little Rick, but maybe slightly on the higher side. So on his behalf, we'll say a few words, take turns doing that. Trisha is supposedly doing the emceeing, but I think she probably needs a little training from Sheta, I think. But I think we can arrange that soon enough, because things would probably be a bit different had Sheta really got her into it. But she will do some work. So what we will begin with are the addresses. So those who are gathered, if you have enjoyed some of the snacks, or if you're still in the process of enjoying more of that, refreshments, whatever, please have a seat and we'll have some of this presentation and then we'll follow up with the lunch. So we kick this off with Trisha, Rick's one and only sister, making the first presentation for her brother. I hope we'll find something entertaining in that. Thank you all.
Okay, I'm Trisha, I'm Rick's sister. So, the day I was writing my speech, my brother walked into my room, and he just started talking to me about everything that ever has gone on between us. And we ended up just talking about random speeches we've heard. He ended up bringing up Sheta's brother, Shuvra, his speech at her R&B throne, and he had talked about how he hated speeches that start with, "Words can't describe how I feel about this moment," and lo and behold, my speech had started with, like, "Words can't describe how I feel about this moment," so I ended up having to rewrite the entire thing, and then that's kind of what this is now. And so during that conversation, Rick and I were still talking, and he made me promise not to talk about a few things. So Rick, I promise you, I will not mention the time in English class that you had to run around in a dress because you were Ophelia and Hamlet, and you had to pass around little flowers because you were crazy. I won't talk about that time that I scared you in the hallway and you danced a little jig because you were so scared and you didn't know what to do. I won't talk about that time when you were little and you got us locked in a room and you didn't know how to unlock the door, so you would walk up to me and go, "Oh my God, you were so cute," because I was like 2, and then you would start screaming at the door and hollering because you didn't know how to get out. However, what I will talk about is what a good brother you were. I will talk about how many things you've inspired me to do, and more often than not, also what not to do. I'll mention all the times you've made me laugh with all the stupid jokes you've told me, like when I was 5 and I thought it was hysterical when you told me, "What's a cat that swims? A catfish." I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. I'll tell everyone about that. I'll tell everyone about how many times we sang Les Mis on the way to school because we had nothing else to do and you were finally driving. I'll tell them about all the times we sang The Confrontation because there was nothing else to do, and we both knew the song. I'll tell them about all the times I came into your room and pestered you by talking about random crap and telling you that it was time for your nap when you really needed to study, and I had nothing else to do, so I decided to come in and tell you that I needed to take a nap. So I would lay straight across your bed with nothing else around me, and I would just sleep there. Except when I wasn't sleeping, I was sitting there talking about, no one even knows what I was talking about. I'll tell people about the time we were in India, and Dad got us both balloons, and you thought that if you let go of yours, it would float all the way to New York miraculously. So me, being the little kid I was, who could easily be like swayed to do something, I let go of mine too. And I didn't know where it was going, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, and I had no idea what was happening because I thought my balloon was gone forever. And you were like, no, it'll come back, it'll be at our doorstep in New York. And I believed you. And I was heartbroken when it wasn't. It never came back. So Lala, in closing, thank you. Thank you for all you've taught me. Thank you for making me laugh. Thank you for getting me involved in clubs at school that I never would have been involved in. And thank you for making my freshman year memorable. Anyway, now, I know that today is my brother's day and this is special for him, But today is also another day. It is also Father's Day today, so today, in special recognition of my dad, present him. Yeah, there you go.
Shreya's birthday present.
It's Shreya's half birthday present, which was that we were telling my dad that that's Shreya's half birthday present because we didn't want him to know that we're getting him presents. And then my mom walked in, she was like, "Oh no, they're just gonna go get you a present real quick, like no big deal." And then, well, that little secret was given away. Anyway, our next speech is gonna be my dad. He has a speech for Rick, so.
I do have a bit that's written up, so give me like 10 seconds to get it out. And also thank you, Trisha, for remembering Dada in so many ways. I'm sure that you have far more stories than you actually recounted here, which always goes for all brothers and sisters in this world. So, but we relive those moments many times. And also thank you for remembering Father's Day, and before we forget, to all the fathers here, a common happy Father's Day, and maybe a big round of applause of all ages. Thank you all, it's very special. And in particular, let me recognize a few people here. Everybody is, of course, incredibly precious and very dear to us. But in particular, let me recognize some that we haven't often asked to join us in such occasions. Dr. Vijay Asari from my own department is here, a great specialist in vision science and an endowed chair in our electrical engineering program. So it's a great honor to have Vijay here with us. Some of my graduate students are here, which also is relatively rare. I've not in the past had this many respond to join us for this special occasion. Le Fong from mainland China, Hao Zhu right next to him, they joined us here. Tariq is out there somewhere. Oh, he's right there. Okay, Tariq is here. And we'll, Fares, I see him far down there, with their families as well. So let's again give them a very warm round of welcome. And they are all working hard, by the way. I mean, we usually as professors, we are hawkishly watching their progress. And in this case, I must say I have a bunch that's watching me do my part as much as possible. So it's kind of pretty mutual in that sense. Also my longtime colleague, Dr. Nick Bourbakis. He's a closer friend than many friends I would probably say that I've known for a long time close friend of mine. Dr. Bourbakis is sitting up front. He's from Wright State. So all of them are among the very special ones that are here, not to discount in the least way all the others, but we're also looking at the time. So thank you all, in fact, for being here and spending the time with us for this high school graduation, which is what I will kind of try to highlight a little bit in what I have to say here. So again, to repeat what I began saying, we thank each and every one of you attending Rick's formal set-off before he sets off for that official venue for academic and intellectual discoveries, college, to boot. For those of us from India, it was only when you had entered college, found challenging majors, and made a discovery or two, as did Satyendranath Bose, or Meghnad Saha, or C.V. Raman, or wrote a novel or two, as did Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, fiddled around with numbers to impress Cambridge mathematicians such as G.H. Hardy, as did Srinivasa Ramanujan. You would, only when you did those things, you would receive some muted accolades and admiration as having, I will put in quotations, arrived in this world. By comparison, high school was pretty routine. We would even consider it blasé, merely the stepping stone to the unraveling universe of learning out there, in which each young person would have to find his or her place. For me, with my origins and heart and soul in India, even though the better part of my life has been spent in the academe, it was only happenstance that Wrik's finishing high school would provide me with a close encounter with high school graduation in the American tradition. To say that this is pageantry of a very high order would be an understatement. To some, the sights and sounds of high school graduation might well appear like victory celebrations following Alexander's conquests of Persia and the Near East, or maybe even Neil Armstrong taking that first human step on the moon. Now I realize that I risk sounding like a skeptic with the above somewhat irreverent view. My intention is by no means to minimize the importance of stepping stones and building blocks. In the preceding, I was simply laying out certain cultural and structural differences with regards to crossing the high school threshold between the two countries I have been directly associated with. A system in which students and their hard work are recognized and celebrated with such earnestness is, at the end of the day, a good thing. Also, it likely encourages young people to strive for higher levels of attainment in their lives. Now, for a few words about the center of our attention for this afternoon. Little more than 18 years ago, Wrik's mom and I had spent our days observing assorted dadas, didis. In fact, we had dadas and didis back then too. And now we are all mashis and meshos and so forth. And even a few friends attained parenthood. And having watched the phenomenon that typically occupies about the middle half of most human lives, often wondered about the reality of becoming parents in our own lives. Culminating the usual series of evolutionary processes with multiple near misses and close encounters, around the spring of 1994, when we were preparing to take a one-year sabbatical leave in India, we learned that by the grace of Mother Manasa, the gift of parenthood had been thrown into our laps. By the time the tiny 4.8-pound baby boy occupied our outstretched arms in the holy city of Prayag, modern Allahabad, in India, in the cold Kumbh Mela month of January, he had survived 2 serious falls on the part of his mother. And this is actually a fact. Once, when she was in her early second trimester. The second time, when her third trimester was almost complete. This was days before Wrik was supposed to arrive. This time, down 6 flights of concrete steps, she took a fall. The kid, I recall telling myself, is a survivor. He had already made it through 2 episodes of serious bleeding on the part of his mother, and by some manner of determination made it into this world. As the months unfolded, another characteristic became rather apparent. The kid was not merely a problem eater or a picky eater. He was, for all purposes, a non-eater. Efforts to feed him would typically begin at 7 p.m. and via a variety of failed trickery in which he would outwit his parents, continue till midnight. We would often discover that the last morsel from the previous night would emerge from his mouth virtually intact the following morning. This happened quite often. "I know what's going on," said his Dida, his maternal grandmother. She said, "I know what's going on. Wrik was born during the Kumbh Mela See, he's a sadhu baba, a holy man, a renunciate of earthly pleasures. What is mere food to him? He doesn't need earthly foods. That's how she rationalized it. And this went on for quite a while. It was not until he was about 7 or 8 years old that Wrik began showing genuine interest in food, which was a great change, especially the Bengali variety. From simple dal bhat, which is still his favorite, I believe, goat meat with potatoes, as Trisha will in fact refer to in the slideshow we'll be seeing right after some of these talks. Slight of build as he is, or he might be, I would probably echo Trisha's pronouncement when it comes to savory Indian / Bengali fare, the kid can eat. And I think I have witnessed that. At age less than 3, I observed for the very first time that the human child has humor programmed into them. This was my discovery. I didn't know that there was something programmatic in this, and I stumbled onto it. So here's how. In Wrik's case, this was and continues to be humor of a very high order. And we need to mark that because sometimes you won't get what humor he's all about or responding to. My first realization occurred quite unexpectedly. Wrik had a battery-operated toy monkey that played the drums with the flick of a switch. One day, for one of those damnably inexplicable reasons, when Wrik and I were having some quality time together, he's 3 years old, remember? Quality time together, the switch on the drum-playing monkey jammed. And no matter how hard I tried, it refused to work. The monkey kept on drumming without stop, and it was getting on both our nerves. Okay, it just wouldn't stop. And to make matters truly bad, I found no simple way to remove the batteries in the unit. Wrik was observing me the entire time. In the end, after considerable attempts leading to nothing but complete frustration, I picked up a hammer that happened to be lying around, and for all it was worth, gave the blighted contraption one mighty blow over the head. Right before his eyes. And I was not even watching Wrik at the time. Ho, 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 oh, ho, ho, ho. This started. I looked around and found the little guy squeal in instant laughter at the spectacle, and in the end he was practically writhing on the floor in his uncontrolled mirth. And I never imagined that a child could respond to what he thought was so funny. This whole idea that a child understands what being funny is. It was a realization for me. We all understand that later in time, we understand humor, but this was a lesson for me as well. Okay, I decided the kid has a sense of humor. Sometimes his acerbic sense of humor has gotten him into trouble, but he does observe ironies and fallacies well, and on occasion is left wondering why others do not see the source of his elation. He just can't figure out why others can't share what he's laughing about. In one sequence, and some of the inner stories I can't go into too much here, in one sequence during 7th and 8th grades, he would double over in laughter, muttering the number 216. Some of you might try to unravel what that was because we still don't entirely know. So he's just laughing like crazy and muttering all the time, 216. This is what we heard the whole time. And also a second such situation was standing before a freezer in the grocery store, wherever there were packages of steam fresh vegetables. And we are at a complete loss what the humor is in numbers and a product on the grocery shelf. We're still trying to figure those out. Needless to say, the 3 others in his immediate family were left without the slightest clue why either the number 216 or a package of steamed fresh vegetables were supposed to be so side-splittingly funny. Wrik's ways of observing the world have been frequently unconventional. From age 3 onwards, giant creatures that roamed the earth millions of years ago, became a source of great fascination for him. A parade of well-wishers who are always around us. Therefore, especially kindly Mashis, this happens more often, therefore loaded him up with dino books. And before long, he had mesmerized, or maybe he was mesmerized, he had memorized the vast geological periods of the earth, from the Mesozoic to the Paleolithic to the Jurassic, and the dazzling array of giant lizards and other contemporaneous creatures that inhabited those times. During his years in junior high, political movements around the world captured his attention. And I don't simply mean political movements right at this time, but historically as well. To the effect that one fine day, a large sign went up on his door that proclaimed that his room was the people's room. So we have this sign even to this day. He clearly wanted to identify with working people and their struggles, as all noble people do. To his detriment, though, his sister understood this sign to mean that she had complete, unrestricted right of entry into his room any time of the day, even unannounced. And really, she made good on that, as you could tell from the story she told all of you. Needless to say, Wrik has never thrown anyone out of his room, no matter when and for what purpose, true to his proclamation. So he has stood very true to that. Between the 9th and 10th grades, Wrik had become totally drawn to the impossibly intricate variety of national anthems around the world. Before long, our house would be filled with an emerging baritone in the middle of the night, emerging from the basement in languages that were largely unknown to us. This went on for weeks and months, and we had to really train ourselves to get used to it. So he was really learning national anthems down in the basement. Our man Wrik had gradually mastered full command of the national languages of no fewer than 25 countries, from Azerbaijan to Turkey, from Greece to Kazakhstan. All of this was purely self-taught. I don't myself know any of those languages, by the way, in case anybody wondered. I'm totally ignorant of all of those. One summer, his voice teacher, Mr. Wise, arranged to have Wrik perform the national anthems of about 10 different countries at an outdoor concert without script or notation. And he actually did it. A real proof of Wrik's affinity towards languages occurred for me during one session where I was trying to teach him one of Rabindranath Tagore's songs in preparation for one of our Bengali cultural events. As I proceeded, like teaching him line by line how to sing it and etc., it became clear that Wrik could use some help with the lyrics being written in phonetic English instead of Bengali of the Bengali in Tagore songbook. To this suggestion that write it down phonetically, Wrik offered that he would write the verse in the Cyrillic script instead. So here his mom is sitting there, I'm sitting there, and he says, I'll write it in Cyrillic. And we don't even know what the heck this Cyrillic thing is, what it looks like. And so he picks up a pen, and line by line he's scribbling something down, looks like complete gibberish to us. So he went on with that. To this book, Mom and I expressed great distrust and felt he was merely trying to wiggle his way out of having to learn the song in a hurry. After he had scribbled a few lines, I asked him to read the material back to me. So he had scribbled some stuff, I had no idea what it was. To my amazement, he read the seemingly unintelligible script back to me in perfect Bengali in Tagore's own ornamental language. So there was proof that he did it. Through all of this, Wrik has had his own way with biology and physics, chemistry and calculus, and indeed with French and history, as have all his friends, I know many of whom are assembled here. And he has also honed his readings of the Manifesto and Das Kapital of Dostoevsky and Poe, of Camus and Rowling. Probably more of the formers than the latter, because he's really more into stuff with more gravitas, I believe. Evidently, keeping up this variety of interests has taken some toll on his scheduled exams and other structured work. Are you listening? Finally, some words from me to the graduate. Wrik, one of the greatest experiences in our human lives is the experience of gratitude. From that sensation alone arises humility, perspective, and the inclination towards service to others. I would like you never to forget the acts of love and kindness you have received from so many quarters in your relatively short 18 years. And so many such givers of kindness and love are seated right here in our company today. Never forget Uma Mashi, who always visited you with armloads of gifts, even when simply stopping by to say hello to us in Binghamton. Never forget Orindam Jetu, who never failed to inquire about your physical well-being, knowing how disinclined you were initially in accepting nourishment. And about Haludida, who went out and bought for you an alarm with large blue LED displays so you would never be tardy going to school. And how about Shekhar Jetu and Shantanu Kaku, who offered you main roles as a Bengali kid in the plays and skits they put together for our annual cultural programs. And Kevin Drake and Shreyansh Khaitan, his two senior friends, who took you under their wings as a younger sibling, making you thereby begin to like the high school experience with its highs and lows. Most recently, Bitika Mashi, who spent time putting together your photo collages, which we see over there displayed, and unforgettably, Ganda Jetu, who walked you across the Miami University campus and its laboratories with the energy of an Olympian, so you might get a glimpse of the excitement of the college experience. And I've merely started on this. I cannot go on, that there are such citations applicable to so many that are gathered here, and I'm sure so many others that you have met through your life, both here and certainly even more so back in India. And Bone, who was here moments back, who stood by you when you took your punishment for occasional transgressions. And you know who I have in mind, right? Which you always accepted gracefully. And always bought her dada candy and other goodies from her meager funds. So she was always there buying him on the side chocolates and other candy whenever he got a little beating at home or something like that. So she was always there for him. And Mom, of course, who despite being an interminable nag, in your view, on occasion, has always been there when you have needed her in sickness and in health. For all these and so much more, you must recognize the far greater goodwill in the world between our human brethren than any adverse experiences that are trivial on balance. And in doing so, and here I'm closing, move forward to being a selfless Garibaldi in life, remembering these uplifting lines from our greatest bard, Tagore. Let me first quote that in Bangla, because we have a big Bengali assembly, but these two lines have touched me many times in my life. And with Tagore, we can find hundreds, maybe thousands such at any given moment. But these are two such. Jeke ho more diyecho shukho, diyecho tari porichoy, সবারই আমি নবী, যে কেহ মোরে দিয়েছ দুঃখ, দিয়েছ তারই পরিচয়, সবারই আমি নবী। To those that bestowed upon me great joy in life, you have only revealed to me His infinite play. I bow to all. To those who bestowed upon me sorrow and privation, you have only revealed to me His infinite play. I bow to all. That is the best. Thank you all. So Trisha, you can take over. I think maybe we'll open, actually we have an open floor, but prior to that, we'd like anybody else, maybe Mr. Korzan, would you like to say a word or two? I failed to recognize him.
Well, Wrik's favorite physics teacher is here today, Mr. Korzan. Okay, so if there's anybody else who'd like to say something before my brother, they're welcome to at this time. Can't hear the crickets outside. Anyway, well, now I'd like to call my brother to the floor. He has a speech prepared. Hopefully, he has a speech prepared. Maybe he has a speech prepared. We'll see. All right.
Well, first of all, I don't actually know 25 languages. I just know anthems. There's a difference. Yeah. Those are pretty good lines. Yeah.
You have to listen a little. All right, go on.
Okay. So, where does such a journey end? Such were the words with which Whitley Strieber began the final paragraph of his work, Communion, highlighting his experiences with abduction, being forcibly taken from his dwelling by extraterrestrial beings, if you choose to believe him, of course. Naturally, he wrote these words with a much more dire, much darker set of circumstances in mind. As a species, we always seem to tend to resist tumultuous change unless completely necessary, and despite consequences, these thoughts persist. Our hearts are up in flames, the last traces of our joy are gone. So began Chechen singer Ali Dimayev's ballad to his homeland. Yet, why must we be so fatalistic towards tumultuous change? Perhaps it is as Leon Trotsky said, to be a revolutionary requires a degree of fatalism. Or perhaps it is as another great philosopher, Adrian Monk, said, we're afraid to change, and we're afraid of not changing. It appears that only in extreme situations do we accept change, like we should do to the King's Gambit, openly. Despite how cliched this will sound, the past 18 years have been a journey. And now before we all get up in arms about the fact that I'm taking a cliche and rolling with it, this is a metaphysical journey. This is an intellectual journey. We've been everywhere, at least intellectually. We've been back 13.7 billion years to witness the biggest explosion that ever was that resulted in the birth of our universe. We've been back 4.6 billion years, watching as a mass of molten rock coalesced into our own Earth. A little later, just about a billion years later, just a tiny bit later, the first single-celled organisms took a foothold. Evidently, as Dr. Ian Malcolm said in Jurassic Park, life had found a way. We watched the rise of vertebrates, to the rise of plants and amphibians, reptiles, and even mammals during the Paleozoic era. During the Mesozoic, we watched as beings of the clade Dinosauria. We watched as beings of the clade Dinosauria populated the planet, and later, when nature just got tired of them, she sent this giant rock into the planet, and then they all died. Except for the non-avian versions, of course. Then during the Cenozoic, we watched as mammals finally gained a foothold on our planet. And finally, 200,000 years ago, we watched as our species finally escaped out of its little corner in the southwestern part of present-day Ethiopia. And soon, we watched the rise of human speech, with its fricatives, plosives, ejectives, approximants, and many other kinds of sounds that our vocal tract would somehow generate. We watched the rise and fall of empires, of nations, and of peoples and languages. We've been on a veritable tour of the world, from the forests of New Guinea to the slopes of Dagestan, in all its biological and linguistic diversity and grandeur. But in search of what? Naturally, this is a loaded, purely epistemological question. If you take the approach that the X-Files took, that the truth is out there, maybe your view is largely positive, as those of the existentialists with the search have a set goal or goals in mind. On the other hand, maybe you've come to accept absurdism in one of its forms as it occurs around the world. With the search being ultimately meaningless, at least for our species, but intrinsically necessary for life, as elucidated by Albert Camus in The Stranger and the Myth of Sisyphus. Or maybe you've become a nihilist, with the life and the universe having no intrinsic meaning, purpose, and the search itself being pointless. I don't know. I don't know. I'll probably find out sooner or later. And in addition to the individuals Baba cited earlier, I would like to thank some more people. First, Mr. Corzan for somehow putting up with me for 2 years. And if he can, animate physics, I don't know how. I can do it. I don't know. And there's some people who are not here, like Mrs. Griffith, who somehow put up with me again for 2 other years. Yeah, she's not here, she couldn't make it, or maybe she's coming up, I don't know. Yeah, somehow she put up with me, and if you want stories, you can ask my sister. And to all my other teachers, like Mrs. Leibold, the librarian, who put up with me walking into the library during lunch and during study hall, and then just going into the audio-visual room and browsing the internet, and she didn't care. It was great. It was great. Yeah. And, who else?
Dr. Malone.
Yeah, Dr. Malone.
Who was here?
Yeah, who was here earlier, but
the principal.
Oh yeah, she was supposed to come and give a speech. Maybe she's coming. So thank you then.
Yeah, save some time for her.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Okay, so I have one small slideshow for my brother made up today, so I'll just be playing that now. Ish.
Right, and while the slideshow is going on, maybe you can watch it for a little bit, maybe go to the first round where she has some music as well, and we have been holding you for a while, and lunch is kind of obviously waiting there. I hope it's not getting cold. So she'll get it started, and should we in fact maybe get people to start getting their lunch, or Trisha, what's a good plan?
Do you think we jump with Jack?
Okay, this should be over. All right, we have some reassurance from our presenter. Thank you.
Trisha, lights. Get the lights down. The lights down.